So once again, here we are at the Card Fight Vanguard season finale after thinking last week was the season finale, but wasn't. But then history repeated itself and once again kind of got caught up with stuff. So here we are several days late, talking about this lukewarm, just, I don't know what to call this at this point. Cause I mean, you could call it bad, but in a very real sense, it's just kind of the bare minimum. And again, what sort of makes shows like this or like the other thing I'm watching right now, just because I want to finish it up, Witch from Mercury, what makes them bad is not what makes, say, a lot of bad shows bad. Like, let's take the show I've hated most this year. The Konosuba Megumin spinoff is horrendous. It doesn't look very good. The characters are the most unlikable they've ever been. The plot is non existent, and just above all else, it's just not that funny because none of the jokes have the same level of cleverness or competence that makes Konosuba great. And you know what I just did now? I was able to give easy to point to problems with the show. But in the case of, say, something like this, everything is done, for the most part, competently. The show looks good. The actors do the best they can with what they've been given. And every time I complain about plots and motivations and the scripting of these things, the counter argument is always, well, no, characters do have motivations and there is a plot. And again, as I always say, if these things work for you, that is fine. However, as I keep having to say, they're just not interesting. There's just nothing that interesting going on. There is nothing to leave an impression. Everything is just about getting out the bare minimum so they can show off those new cards, because that's what Bushiroad told them to do. And then Witch from Mercury is just kind of dull. I've literally just been watching this show to wrap it up, and I want to talk about it, but I feel like it's still too early because people are still passionate about that and I don't want to get yelled at. But anyways, so on to Card Fight Vanguard. Let us talk about the plot where we left off. Lo and behold, the Gyu's Brantgate turn went exactly as you expected it to. Yu had just enough to live. He used his over trigger. I think I brought this up before, but it's interesting to me how the over triggers don't really get used that much. Like, it's interesting, you invent this big red button for winning the game, and then your show where you think you would want to show it off, they just kind of don't. I don't know if that's because the writers just don't find the over trigger interesting to include, or if maybe Bushi knows how much people hate them, so they just kind of try not to include them as much as possible. But yeah, so naturally Yu just has enough to guard, and then we move on to his big turn, where it's literally, he gives a big speech, and then he plays the new Verena, and then he wins by the skin of his teeth. Also, I think it's sort of funny, but the speech he gives about winning and losing and having fun and all that, it's literally like verbatim the same thing that happens in that like Pokemon TCG miniseries that starred all the like Google Images stock kids. That's literally what this was. And you have these messages in Shadowverse and even in some of the more lower stakes Yu-Gi-Oh arcs. But this idea of always relating it back to just have fun doesn't work when there's real stakes. There is a real risk of bad things happening if Yu loses. Just ending it off by being like, just have fun, it'll be all right, doesn't work. Also, I always find it funny that whenever the protagonist learns this lesson and then tells it to the antagonist, they then win. I feel like if you really want to display this message in action, the main character has to lose but be okay with it. And I know there are instances of that happening, but so often than not, it's this. The main character is literally saying, be okay with losing, as they're about to just go whoop ass. But yeah, so Yu wins. I noticed for the first time, Gyu looks like it has a tongue. Okay. And then we get 10 minutes of scenes that I should really enjoy. Because watching the next few scenes reminded me how much I love these characters. I really did. But it just doesn't feel like anything. Just a bunch of scenes showing where everyone is, I guess, several weeks or months later. We see that like Megumin wants a part-time job because what else is she supposed to do? Urara and Tall Girl hang out now. Michiru is still in a coma, which I find very funny. I do like the bit with the Greedon kid and the flowers. My personal favorite is Toya is now in the middle of the fucking outback. Shout out to WCC. I choose to believe that's how Bushiroad sees you. And yeah, that's just kind of it. And then like the final bit is Megumi is now in charge of Blackout, and Yu wants to go off on a journey like Toya. Why not just have him go with Toya at that point? But he's going to have one last card fight with Donji because their bond is card fighting. Oh, I love how Sam, this character who last season they really built up and made it feel like it was going to be important. His one fucking scene is that he's hanging out in his weird bass thing, playing Rika's weird friend over Deer Days. You all know Deer Days, that fucking overpriced piece of shit that just got some trial decks. Good lord. But yeah, and then like it just ends with Yu and Donji. They're gonna have a fight, and then we get our next arc teaser, which is we see, I guess, Cray starts glowing, and then that arena starts glowing, and then you see Trickstar. Or did you already see Trickstar? I don't fucking care. And yeah, like that's just kind of it. And it's weird because I don't remember why, but there's a lot of talk that this is it for Yu and crew. But I feel like that final bit would indicate there's still more to go. And you'd assume that like that would involve your existing characters, considering that's a location in the woods behind their house. And yeah, the show just kind of stops from there. So what can we learn from all this? We can learn that Cardfight Vanguard, on their 4th iteration of their franchise, has once again completely just dropped the ball because they feel like they have to be like Yu-Gi-Oh! You need big world-ending stakes, you need something epic happening, but they're never committed to actually doing anything new or creative with it. Once again, we just got the same generic schlock we get over and over and over again, except this time put an AI in it. And it sucks because, like I said, I did love these characters, and as weird as it is to say, when I heard the rumor that they're retiring them, and I guess the rumor is they're gonna make the next arc an adaptation of some manga that came out that those things from Set 11 are in. I don't want that. But when I heard that, I'm kind of like, I don't want them to give up on these guys. I want them to fix them. I want everyone to go back to being the likable, nuanced, fun, creative characters we had when the show first started. Which is stupid because, again, they have screwed this up every time. Like, sooner or later, like, V stayed consistently good. Okay, yeah, the Brantgate arc sucked. But everything was fine, and then you give, like, a fucking filler arc to frickin' Emmy. Or, like, the original had one great season and then fucked up, and then G was just kind of always middling. That's my other worry. If you switch casts, it's to just get a less interesting, more generic group of characters who Bushiroad can easier just bully the writers into just doing whatever they want. And that's just what you're going to have from here. And it just kind of sucks. This was a show I really loved and I really got into. And then it was just like, once again, Bushi is like, do things our way. And that's kind of just where we're at. So yeah, just final thoughts. If you couldn't take the hint, I really fucking couldn't stand this. It was dull. It was boring. And it's so like it takes itself so seriously, but has so little fun that's going on. It doesn't give it any feel of just interest. A lot of time, I just feel like this kind of numbness watching it. And I should never have to feel that. And if the next arc doesn't really do anything, I'll probably just do what I did here. And that's do a video once in a while, unless, a week where I don't have a chance to do anything else pops up. So yeah, that was my thoughts on Will+Dress Season 3. It's bad. Give me your thoughts about it below. And as for the Vanguard question of the something or other, set 12 is about to come out. A lot of really cool shit. As a Bastion player, I have to wait till December for my fucking owl. But a lot of neat stuff. Anything you're interested in. Obviously, we won't be talking about Vanguard for a while, so talk about that below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me as we talk about better shows.